Yes, hey, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the world you are. Hope you are doing great. Here we are with another session with Microsoft Zero to Hero, Microsoft Learning Room community. And so excited about today's session. I'm going to quickly add my slides and continue. I have almost 3 to 4 slides just to quickly kick off the session. I'm so excited to hand over the stage to Mar, which is our today's speaker. Gonna have an exciting topic about CI/CD for Power Platform from design to deploy. So excited about it, and also happy that she's here today with us and taking time to present for today's topic. So about Microsoft Learn, as usual, we always talk about this is the richest place ever that you can find content about Microsoft cloud technologies, services, and also AI services. You can create your customized learning and training paths. You can take exam practices and test before going to the actual exam. And I sometimes got feedback from the community that where can I see and feel the exam environment before going to actual one. So this is in Microsoft Learn. This is totally free. A lot of exam practices you can do. You can feel confident before going to exam. So just make it your homepage. This is our motto. So we always encourage people and try to inspire you. Make it your homepage. Try to check Microsoft Learn on a daily basis. Try to learn in a daily basis as well. Check out learning rooms. Learning rooms are part of tech community of Microsoft Learn. So this is the great place to connect with professionals, MVPs, RDs, Microsoft employees. Ask whatever question you have, how you want to continue. If you have any doubts about your learning paths, about your career path, so we are always there to help you. So we just recently witnessed a great Microsoft build. However, if you attended in person in Seattle or online, or if you missed it, you can again go back and watch it again, or you can register for Microsoft Build Learn challenges, which is also a great opportunity. Like Microsoft Build itself, like Microsoft Ignite, all of these are reasons and opportunities to learn more. Trigger another opportunity for learning, trigger another learning path, and get inspired about Microsoft technologies. And these are exactly the place that you need to register and make the learning happen in a daily basis. So don't forget to check for Microsoft Learn build challenges and also Microsoft Build itself. So as a last slide, we have code of conduct again as usual. So being aware of others, being friendly and patient and welcoming and respectful during the session, and opening to all questions and viewpoints, understanding of differences, and being kind and considerate to others. So I'm gonna add Mar to the stage. Hi, good evening, Mar.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. So looking forward. Bit hot already in Spain. This is where I'm connecting from. So
Great.
thank you, Hamid, for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Of course, so happy to have you on stage. So, stage is yours. You can share your screen.
Yeah. So let me just share that one. I think
Here
yeah,
we are.
here we are. Right.
Yeah, good luck.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Um, Wherever you are listening me, so good morning, good afternoon. I'm so excited to present this topic to you. It's one of my favorite ones. So that's the typical continuous integration, continuous deployment for Azure for Azure DevOps. However, I'm going to focus on the Power Platform itself. Um, Sometimes we think that low code is something only for non-developers, and I'm going to prove you that isn't true. And also there are a lot of use cases when we need to implement a pure CI CD. And what I'm bringing to you is a whole experience. So a kind of a framework overview, some details, how everything is connected, even how we can connect the test. Okay, I'm not going to spoil it. So let's go to our agenda for today. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Llambí. I'm a business applications senior technical architect by KPMG. I'm focused on Dynamics Power Platform. I've been involved with Microsoft technologies for already 14 or 12 years. I'm also involved in some community beats, so Women for Technical Talks, and also I'm one of the organizers of this summit, one of the biggest business applications events in Europe. And you can find me in social media if needed, but I will be glad to answer your questions. So at any point, if you see something I'm explaining, just tap whatever you're watching me from, tap your question, and I will be glad to answer. A little bit of an agenda. I'm gonna I always, for those kind of sessions, I kind of set the session expectations, because most of you are coming from different experiences, different technology levels, different approaches. Some of you are business, some of you are more power platforms, some of you are pure Asia. So I'm gonna set kind of expectations, what you're gonna see today. I'm gonna focus how and why it's so important, the CI/CD for Power Platform, and how all the bits are connected to each other, how we work with the solutions of Power Platform to be sure that we have kindly something that we could say automated or fully automated deployment. And then I'm going to introduce the testing as well, because when we are defining the cycle, if you're aware of CI/CD, we have to talk about also testing. And that's one of the latest bits that Microsoft has introduced more than 1 year ago. It's still most of them on preview, but it has a lot of potential, and I want to show it to you as well, how we introduce it, how we incorporate it into our pipelines, and how you can start working on that. Also, I will slightly at the end talk about what is coming in the near future. And why in the near future? Because there are really new exciting news from Microsoft that will completely impact the way how we are doing the automated deployment for Power Platform. There are many new releases announced that will change our approach, it completely shocked my mind. So I can guarantee to you that it will change the way how we manage the code in Power Platform. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about that. Okay. What is and what is not on this session? So I'm going to talk about CI/CD collaboration for Power Platform, how we design, how we define the repositories, how we ensure the pipelines are connected to each other. Are we going to connect the pipelines based on the repository? Are we going to connect the pipelines based on human decisions? So that's what I'm going to kind of present. So many ways and many frameworks that we have to kind of have a CI/CD. Then some guidelines and tips for the pipeline creation. So I'm going to jump into the system and show you everything how it's been set it up. Some things I have already running, obviously, because it takes some time. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of bits. Okay, this is how you do that. This is how you do that. That you have a sense of flavor, how you can implement it by yourself. Just as a reminder, everything I'm going to explain, it's on Microsoft Learn portal. So everything you're going to find it. The only thing I'm doing is making your life easier, because there are thousands of pages. So that's kind of my collaboration today. And then a little bit of UI testing. So how we do UI testing. What is not this session? I'm not going to present any kind of fixed and a strict CI/CD deployment approach or framework. Okay, this must be defined in every company based on the governance of the deployments and the developments. So I'm just showing you some ideas and a low-level idea how it could be done, or it is recommended to be done. But obviously your scenario, your day-to-day is kindly different. So please don't take my presentation as something like, yeah, Mark told us we should do that like this. No, isn't like that. So, and also I'm not going to zoom into every single detail. As I mentioned, I can't set up all the pipelines from scratch today. I mean, it can take us 4 hours. If you have time, I don't have. But I've tried kind of to summarize everything to provide you a notable idea. Okay, I need that, and I will need to connect this with this. That's what I'm going to show you. Okay, why is continuous integration and continuous deployment so important for Power Platform? Isn't this for development only? That's one of the questions I got from one cloud architect. I was implementing a Dynamics 365 project some time ago, and when we presented the continuous integration framework for a customer, that guy was like, why do you need a continuous integration, continuous deployment approach? I mean, you are just low code, right? Come on. No. I mean, you have also to think how many applications, enterprise applications, are running on top of Power Platform. If you just focus on Power Platform as Canvas apps and model driven, those can be even so huge and so business critical that you need to maintain so many new releases week by week. So you have to think that in one single platform, there are many of us collaborating to each other. We have the Dynamics 365 specialists. They are configuring sales model, marketing, well, customer insights model, field service model, even the F&O guys. They don't work with Dataverse yet, but they are building their blocks in their own environments. Then we have the citizen developers. So we allow them using the same platform to build apps in top of what has been already built for the company, right? So, okay, I have already my context, my accounts, my products defined on my system, my case management, but I'm going to allow them to create their own reports, their own Canvas app for easy management, their own automations. How I'm going to mix that with it's been already built? And then we have the code first developers, because in every Power Platform development, there is one single piece that must be done using coding. So you might need to extend something using Power Platform framework, or you might need to code something with TypeScript or JavaScript into your model-driven app. Or now that we have Copilot, perhaps you need to define your own skills, your own bot framework skills. So everything, it's been collaborated and it's been pulled into one single platform. So how we ensure that from the end user perspective, everything is managed and it's triggered and it's released with kind of certain control, but also reducing the human interaction, reducing bottlenecks, reducing a lot of bureaucracy, I'm going to say, that it's preventing the end users having the latest version as soon as possible. So we have this inner loop, this application development experience that is happening somewhere. And then we have the outer loop that we have to ensure that everything that is happening in our platform can be deployed accordingly. For example, we could have 3 different environments. That's the simplest scenario, right? We could have development, test, and production. Even if now Microsoft is approaching us that every single developer should have their own development environments, which should be based in one main development environment. We could also have a seat environment. We could have also QA environment, whatever. That's the simplest scenario. How we move and we ensure the version controlling, the dependencies management, that everything is robust, that we don't affect the integrity of the data, neither of the processes, and we ensure that this is fluent as possible. Okay, I'm gonna show you how we could do that. I have built an example. This is based on my experience. Every single project, as I mentioned, it's kindly different. So it depends on the governance of my customer. It depends on the complexity of the application, but also it depends on who is gonna be building something in the same environment as others. That's what I mentioned. If we have isolated environments, it doesn't make sense to connect them into the CI/CD. But if we have everything connected to each other, then is when we have to set up kind of framework, right? So these 5 lines you're seeing right now, this could be our source control branches. So this is just an example. We have the main, release, test, development, and feature. And then everything starts on development, right? So development is our main branch where we build everything. And something triggers on dev. How it gets triggered? Okay, I start organizing all my epics, features, user stories using my Azure boards. And why is so important I do that? Because then in every release, in every build I do, I can link to which epic or to which feature this is related to, or even to which fix or which bug it's related to. For every new feature that is coming from Azure boards, what we do is creating a new feature branch. The reason is because I could have different teams working on different features, so they could be working on parallel. And also, it doesn't mean that all the features needs to be ready at the same time, right? So I need somehow a stable version on my dev, and in parallel, I could have different features running on. Okay, so these people that are working with those branches, at the end, they're working on a development environment. Again, it could be more complicated, so I could add one environment, for each feature or for each developer, but it's just an example. Okay, so into this development environment, I could have Dataverse solution with multiple of tables, apps, flows, whatever you want. And also I could have some TypeScript projects. So if you work with extensions, web resources, code extensions for Power Platform, you know TypeScript projects are the right way. So all of them are working in the same environment. So the TypeScript guys, so people who is doing pure development, they could start pushing their code in one feature branch. But again, we could have one single per developer. Doesn't matter. So when we push this into a feature, what we have at the end is one single Azure repository where everything is hosted somehow and it's controlled. Into this Azure repository, I want to have two main things. One is my solution, completely unpack it, so I could see every single XML file, how it's changing, and also the code project, so the type project. Even if then it's compiled and plug it into the solution as well, we normally recommend to have a split folder where we can kind of better control the code that it's being developed under the same project. When everything is ready and the feature is ready, we do a pull request. Again, it could be a pull request. It could be that at the end of a cycle, if you're working with a sprints, you do a review. If it's not ready, you push back. But just an example, I have a pull request. What is happening on this pull request? So I'm merging everything into dev. So as a feature, I'm saying this is ready as part of a development and can be moved to test. Okay, if it's ready it is ready from the development perspective, we have to execute some jobs. So those tasks from my build pipeline are going to be, I basically get the source control, the source of the solution. So I export the solution, I unpack the solution. So I ensure that the latest version of development is the one that I'm going to deploy in test. I install the tools that I need, I build the solution, I run the test. This is something I'm going to show you how. And when I say test, could be every single test that belongs to the code itself. I'm not talking about acceptance test. I'm talking about unit testing. I'm talking about interface testing. I'm going to tell you more about later. And then I prepare the package artifacts and the publish artifacts. What I'm doing that because I'm saying this is my last stable version of my Power Platform solution. If that works, this is what we're going to deploy in production. Because in test, we will not do any kind of changes. That's for sure. I can guarantee to you. So once we have this artifact, we say, okay, we are ready for test. So we merge everything into test. So in that case, we merge the code to test and we say, okay, the latest version that we're going to test in this environment, it's now on the test branch. So if we need to take back any step, what we will need to do is roll back the latest merge that we've done, and then being sure that as part of the governance, the code is moving forward and moving backward according with the decisions taken as part of the test. Then I have my first deploy pipeline, which is the QA deploy. I'm going to deploy to test. And when it's going to happen when I deploy into test is I download the ready artifact I had. So this is a ready packaged solution. Please do never deploy and manage in test. I'm going to show you one example how I did it for my own personal duties, but please, for a customer or for a production, you should never move it. Otherwise, you cannot guarantee that the solution in test it's being the same as in production, that it's going to be the same as deployed in production. Then what I do is I configure the secrets if there is any kind of Azure Vault keys that I have to configure. I configure the connection references. I configure any kind of environment variables. So everything that it's part of the test. And then is when I have to run the integration test before letting to the users know that the solution is ready for test as part of the acceptance test. First, I have to run the integration test. If those doesn't work, we will need to roll back the version and roll back the artifact, because it means that this artifact isn't ready for test. Unfortunately, we can only test the integrations as part of the test system, right? And then we deploy it as a managed solution. Once everything is in test, everything worked perfectly, then it's when my acceptance test users receive the notification, and I have two kind of tests. I have the automated acceptance test, so you know that there are some nice tables that they have to fill in and accept the criteria if everything ran perfectly or not. If one of the acceptance tests fail, then there is analysis, you have the analytics, and also they can do their own face-to-face testing, so they can jump into the system and test however they want. Once they accepted the test and we have the okay from the acceptance test and everything is fine, we can guarantee that the solution has passed the test, so it's ready to be deployed. This should be, and we recommend to be, as automated as possible. That's why we kind of connect the acceptance test as part of the validation. So what we normally do is, when we identify that all the acceptance tests have been successfully run, is when we prepare the new release. Either you decide, and I'm going to show you, either you decide if this is an automated step or there is a manual intervention first. Okay, so now I can guarantee that my development branch and my test branch are in the same stage, because both are stable and both have the same. So either what I could do is I could merge the dev the dev branch into release. This is kind of some discussions here. Should I merge the test or should I merge the development? Well, there is no strict lines here. It depends on the approach, and also it depends how you define the repository. If you don't want the release to have all the code, just the packaged solution, just merge the test. If you want to have all the code itself to analyze if something failed as part of the release, then you should merge the test, the development, where we have every single line of code. Okay, once we merge into release, we prepare our release. I forgot to mention that everything regarding when we deploy the solution into test is happening into the UAT environment for sure. Once we have a new pull request to merge the development into release, this is when we prepare a new pipeline, or when we catch the new trigger for deployment into production. The artifact that we're going to deploy is effectively the same artifact we had in our test environment. This is the perfect scenario. I can tell you not every single solution is like that, because sometimes we need to do a kind of rearrangements. It happens if some integrations are ready in test, but some other integrations or data analytics are only available in production. So yeah, but kind of the perfect scenario is you should deploy in production the same artifact that you deployed into the UAT. We do the same deployment jobs as we've done in test. And then if everything is fine, we merge the release into dev, because we always need the dev branch as part of the latest piece of the development that had work, just that you know. The question here could be, what happens if in the meantime I have other features? No problem. I mean, you could end up in a merge conflict or not. I mean, it's part of the resolution of the pull request. but it depends on the scenario. And if we guarantee that everything it work, we can guarantee that the main and master branch is ready to contain the latest version and the latest release of the solution. This main branch, we use it for the release notes, not the release branch. This is one of the approaches we normally use, because the release branch contains inner notes for us. So inner notes, technical notes that are for us. And then what we do is normally when we move into main is where we define the final releases for the end users. This is why we normally do it like that. But again, isn't something fixed, right? And of course, as soon as the solution is being deployed, I have my app insights, my Azure app insights ready to monitor what is happening. Okay, so this was just, let me go back. This is the strategy that we should follow when we work with Power Platform. Isn't so different as the approach that we should follow in any other deployment, okay? And we are just introducing specific scenarios or specific tasks that are part of the Power Platform deployments, as connection reference substitution, as variable substitution, as Azure cables substitution. But that's the part of the job. At the beginning, if you say everything comes from a Power Platform scenario, but from the first trigger, from the first release pipeline, you don't know if you are working with Power Platform or with .NET or with any other kind of project. So that's kind of the same. Okay, so I lost now the presentation. Sorry. Oh gosh, no. I apologize. Now, so as part of the CI/CD, you must know we should follow some testing standards. And let me tell you, if you are not testing your Power Platform solution, you are in a wrong world, my friend. I mean, come on. Do you really trust in every single test that you've done? Let me tell you, you are not an end user. So if you think something, I mean, if you think something cannot go wrong, it will go wrong. I mean, the users always finds the way to break up the solution. So you must be sure that they don't find any single space or bug or gap in your solution that can be broken. So let me guarantee to you that this is how you should approach. We have 5 types of testing ready for Power Platform. So we have unit testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing, and UI testing. I'm going to focus on the UI testing because that's the latest piece, and I think that's the one that is adding the highest value in the platform. Unfortunately, it's only available for Canvas app. Unit testing, so everything that is on your code can be tested. Every single formula that you have in PowerFX, in your Power Automate, or in your Canvas app can be tested. What cannot be tested yet as part of the unit testing is the behavior of model driven. You can somehow, there is workarounds, but not as part of the standard Microsoft products or services or packages. System testing, I mean, you can test your whole environment. You can do a stress load testing. You can check out that everything is fine. You can test your integrations. So you can check out if everything is working fine as part of integration. Also, the testing performance and the timeouts of your integration testing. And then the acceptance testing, it's obviously working. That's part of the Azure DevOps. And then we have the UI testing. How is this done? This is done using the test studio for Canvas app, and this is where I'm going to focus first before showing to you all the deployment pipelines and everything, how it's being configured. This UI testing application help us to ensure that every single button, every single form, every single page, the behavior is as expected. So the flow of the solution itself, so how the user navigates to one screen to another, it's robust enough. Also because wouldn't be the first time that the user tells you, hey, I put something that isn't an email into the email form field and the app accepted it, and you will be like, yeah, I forgot testing that. So those kind of data validations, those kind of human interactions with testing, that's why the UI testing is called end to end, because it's from the beginning of the of the app, so since the user opens the app till the user closes the app. If you're familiar with Selenium, I don't know if you are, if you have done some kind of front end testing, this is how it works. Okay, so let me jump into a solution. I have a Power Platform solution, so that's my environment. That's my development environment. I'm gonna kind of tag some things, explain a small things so that you get familiar if you are not with some of the components I'm going to show or some of the features I'm going to show. This solution contains some components. So I have some cloud floats, I have some apps, one model-driven, one Canvas app. I also have some custom pages, one Power BI. I mean, it's kind of completed solution. If I open the app using Canvas apps, I see that it's a typical form app. It is an app to book health appointments. So if I need any kind of a specific doctor, this is where I can see which are the next available appointments in my clinic. So this just a really simple application. What I'm going to show you is the test engine. So if I click here on Advanced Tools and I click on Open Test, you're going to see that a new tab is open. And then what I'm watching at is the test studio for this specific app. So you can define as many cases and as many suite cases as you need. So if you remember, or if you are familiar with UI testing, you have different approaches. Either you have the test group by a whole use case, or you have a specific test cases. So that's the approach here. My user or my use test case will be book on a treatment, and then I have under this, beneath this this specific scenario, I have two test cases. The first one, it is just checking that a user can log into the app. So click on the profile, click on edit, and modify its name. This is what is checking. And the second one, it is checking kind of something similar but different approach. It is checking that I'm able to select one. Okay, I haven't set at the time zone. Fine. I can click on a new appointment, find an available slot, and then book an appointment. How is this done that? I'm not going to show you. This will be a separate solution, separate session, but you can record as if you were with RPA, so with robotic process automations flows of Power Automate. So you record yourself clicking and working with the app. It generates the steps, and you can define specifically the information that you need to be applied to any specific case. For example, when I click, let me show you the modify username. So when I click on the text field that contains the user name, I can define any kind of value that I want. Here you see that I'm defining a test value. This test value is defined as part of the whole test suite preparation. So you have preconditions and post conditions of your test cases. You can see, okay, when every test case starts, define those variables or restart those variables. And then when every test case completes, navigate back to the main screen if the user hasn't done that, to be sure that we start from the very beginning again. And then I have when the test suite complete. So when every test case is finished, what should I do? I could sign off, I could close the app, something like that. So if I execute those, then I'm going to see as an RPA flow how everything is done in my screen as if I were the user. I want you to get the idea that what we are doing is recording the behavior of a user and preparing the automated cases, because for every single app, you should record every single action that the user should be able to do, test as many entries as you want. So be sure that any possible entry format has been tested, and then run the test. What happens if I click here and I run the test? What I'm seeing, or what I'm gonna see is everything is happening on my screen. It's kind of manual, right? So if I want to integrate it to my CCD, what I want is kind of have it automated. Okay, I could record my test cases, but I want them to happen every single time a new release is coming on. Why? Because I want to ensure that every new release isn't breaking something that has been built in the past. How we do that? Okay, so then we jumped into our Azure DevOps. In our Azure DevOps, we might need to configure some kind of things before we can start working on Power Platform. The first thing we need to do is we need to install the Power Platform build tools. Let me just show you an example. We need to wrong example. We need to install the Power Platform build tools in our Azure DevOps organization. Those are the official Microsoft ones. There are other people who are contributing with their own packages, which are really nice. But also, I have to warn you that if you're working with a customer, they will like to use the Microsoft official ones, right? I mean, all of them can be translated to YAML. So if you want by yourself, skip the tasks that are coming from the package, but use the package, you can write down your own YAML, and you can use the functions of this package and define your own YAML. It's fine enough. Then you will need to set up, let me go to project settings. You will need to set up where do I have it? Permissions. Yeah, you will, no, sorry, wrong place. Service connections. You will need to define one service connection per every environment that you're going to connect with, okay? And in order to do that, you might need to set up an Azure ID application, give it Dataverse permissions, and then you might need to jump into every single environment. This is the Power Platform Admin Center. Go to application users and add every single user into every single environment. Once you have the application user added into the environment, you're going to be able to create service connections. Those service connections are only the server URL of Dataverse, the tenant ID, the application ID, and obviously the client ID secret that you got from the Azure ID registration. Entra ID, sorry. I'm gonna be wrong all my life. Then you can start planning your boards. I have here some epics, also some tasks, but not necessary now. So you could start planning your work items, and then you have to set up your repository. So as part of the repository, I have 3 main folders. The first folder is basically where my app is going to be unzipped. So this is my zip package and everything that is into the zip package. So every single code, in that case, there are XML codes and JSON coding. If you haven't looked at what solution looks like when you export it, this is how it looks like. And then you might need to generate a setting document. So the first time that you are going to move this solution into CI/CD, you will need to export it. You will need to use the Power Platform CLI tools, so the same build tools from your Visual Studio, and generate the settings document. You can find how to do that in Microsoft Learn, how to export settings file from Power Platform solution. That's easy to find. And then it's going to generate something like this. It's going to generate the list of connection references that your solution is using, and also the environment variables that your solution is containing. You need that because from environment to environment, the connection references and the environment variables must change. Perhaps some environment variables not, but that's why they're called environment variables, right? So you will need to create those connections in every single environment, so in test and production, and you will need to configure them into the settings file. How you do that? Quickly, I come back here, I go to connections. This is my development environment. So let's move to the test one. So I go to connections and I click new connection. Here I have already connections created. So when I click on details, the nice ID that I have here is the ID that the connection ID field on my JSON is expecting. So you just need to replace that for every single connection. And then for the environment variable, what I've done is just changing the environment variable in each one. So you will see that production and test have their own connection references and their connection and their environment variables. Sorry. And then I have the Canvas app code. This is just one example how the GitHub actions are already available for Canvas app, only for Canvas app. So instead of downloading the .msapp or grabbing the app from the solution, now we are able to define a repository as part of the source control of a Canvas app. The problem, Microsoft, please, could we have the code soon? Because this doesn't make sense if we are if we don't work both developers or many developers under the same environment. But yeah, it's a nice first step. Okay, so we have the service connections in my Azure DevOps. I have my service account in every environment. I have updated my connection references and my environment variables. What's next? So the next what we should do is define our branches. So I have my base repository. So I start with my main, where everything is going to be. And then based on the strategy that you define it, that's the strategy I explained to you before, you can start defining sub branches and parallel branches. So I have my main, I have my features. So for every feature, I could create one. And the important point here is when I create a new feature, for example, feature, typo, feature 004, I could decide to which work item is linked. I could decide, okay, everything that is happening or as soon this epic, it should be feature, I apologize. As soon this feature is ready, it means that this branch could be closed, merged, and died, killed. So remember, we normally kill the feature branches. We never kill the development main, test, and release branches. So that's kind of how it's going to work. Let's see how we push and how we connect everything together. Okay, so what I'm going to show you, it's slightly different what I explained you because that's my personal environment. I do not need two releases, one for test and one for production, because I trust myself and I use a build pipeline for test. But the approach, it's going to be the same. So the first step I told you, what we will need to do is to create the export from dev as soon as it's ready. Okay, which is the trigger of this pipeline? Nothing. If you see, I haven't defined any kind of trigger. So usually what we will need to do is every time that something has been merged into dev, we should export the solution from dev and then import it into our repository. I haven't done that because it's only me. So I do it manually. I trigger this pipeline manually. But in real life, what we need to do is connect it with the continuous integration and say, hey, every time that there is a new pull request or there is a new merge into dev, ding, 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 run the pipeline. Not necessary now. Okay, so it's going to take the source code from development. So what I do first is I install the development tools. I export the solution. I'm not going to focus a lot on the configuration. Again, Microsoft Learn is your friend. How I configure pipeline export solution. So there is a really nice documentation. Just let me show it to you from Microsoft Learn, where you can check every single build tool task, how it's done, how it's configured, and for what every single field is used. Something useful I'm going to show you. Always work with the solution name as a variable. That's a recommendation. The team project as well as part of the export. Then what I do is I unpack the solution because what I'm going to download is a zip and what I need is a full structure of folders. And then what I do is I push it, I commit it, and I push it to my dev branch. In that case, what I should do as developer, I should push it into my feature um, myself. So I should, I don't know, at the end of the day, I should commit every single day what I'm doing on my feature branch. And then when everything is ready, we should build up the export from dev. But as I mentioned, this is just an example. And then what I'm just doing is using my authorization, my user, and I just push the details into the repository. As soon as there is something a repository, and here we have a slightly CI/CD automated part, what I'm going to do is import it to test. So just let me show you. Here we have a continuous integration. So what I'm saying is every time that there is a new push into dev, it means that someone has released a new feature. It's time to prepare the deployment into test to test it. So the tasks are kindly the same. So I install the Power Platform tools, I pack the solution, I import the solution into test. In 1 second, I'm going to skip for now the set solution versioning. And then what I'm doing is exporting at the same time this solution and prepare the artifact. Why I'm doing that? Because I want to ensure that, because I'm sure, sorry, the test environment and the production environment are equal, I'm going to export the solution as managed from test, not export it again from development, because I don't know what is been happening in development. So what I know is this is the solution I imported and managed. So this is the solution I'm going to export it, manage. This is the right approach. Obviously not if you are in a collaboration space. You should export as managed the same as you imported in test. So you should export it directly as managed and import it in test as managed always. And then what I do is I build the artifact and I publish the artifact on my DevOps, ready to be catched for my release pipelines. So if everything works, they're going to start triggering. Two things here. One of the nice features that this is coming with, it's a set solution version. So it's a nightmare how we control the version number of every solution in our space. It's impossible to do that in development. You know how many times we export something in development that it never gets into production? So what is happening is production has the version 1.001, and 2 months later they've been deployed the 1.0.0.10. So where are my 9 missing versions? The reason is because you exported so many times from dev that you only imported one single of those versions into production. So there is like a skip on the versioning number that it shouldn't be like this. I mean, from the end user perspective, if I see the release notes, why 1 month ago it was the 1.0.0.1 and now I'm in the 1.0.0.8? What happened with the 7 versions in between, right? So the good approach is you can set the solution version, but only under your responsibility. So once a solution has been deployed in a system, you can set the solution version. That's why I do it like this. I import it into test, I set the solution version, and then I export this solution with the same solution version. So I know that test and production are stable enough in terms of versioning. There are many ways how you can do that. So you can build your own number format. So I manually put the version number, but you could use variables as version fix, version measure, and version minor, and you could start using the build number format to define the build that you want. Right now is defining a build that is based on date. So I could take the version fix, measure, and minor to ensure the artifact versioning and the Power Platform solution are correlative to each other. So I can check that the artifact corresponds to the solution that is going to be deployed into production. And last but not least, then I go to releases. I have here this release from this afternoon. I tested just in case that something wouldn't work. And here's where we have different approaches. So what I'm doing is I get my artifact And the trigger of this continuous deployment trigger is every time there is a new artifact, go into production. Go. That shouldn't be the approach. Okay. So the approach should be, instead of by artifact, you should do it by branch. So as soon as you publish a branch, as soon as you tested the artifact in test, if you remember, my recommendation is merge it into the release branch. Then we should have here the branch filter and say, hey, every time, yeah, I'm just gonna do by every time that there is a new feature. I'm missing the feature, the feature branch. Every time that there is a new pull into the feature, it means that the new artifact is ready because it's been already tested. It passed all the tests. Then just deploy it into production. This is how it should work. But because I don't work with so many branches, it doesn't make sense for me. And then what is happening here, it's pretty simple. It installs and then it deploys with the as a managed solution. And if you see the deployment settings file that is using, it's the deployment settings file that I have on my repository. Last but not least, because I'm conscious about the time, let me show you, let me show you something else. So when I prepare the build, let me show you the latest execution. I see that there is a ready artifact, and the artifact is containing all these files. And this artifact, can you show me the details? Okay. Then I'm gonna just check the artifact itself. Okay, let me see if I can find it. No, it doesn't show me. Okay. Well, this it's gonna be shown here. So I see, if you remember, right now I have set the build number of my artifact using a date field, but I could use the same versioning as the Power Platform version. So it's a better way to correlate and to identify which version it's been deployed into production. And as I mentioned, last but not least, how we do that with the test cases, how we integrate the test cases. Well, let me tell you that the test cases must be deployed using something called Test Engine. It's a GitHub project from Microsoft, so there is no kind of something straightforward to use it. You need to fork your project. This is what I have it, your test automation project, and then use it as a source control to run your test. So what it's doing at the end, if you're familiar with RPA, at the end is opening an agent screen, a robotic agent screen. So a robot is signing in with your credentials. It's clicking as you define it on the test cases, and it's running the tests. So if we run quickly the test, run pipeline, I'm gonna go for the latest one, otherwise it will not work. What is happening here is an agent is connecting to a virtual machine, is opening a browser, is opening in the largest size the browser screen. The reason is because then we ensure that all the elements of the Canvas app are available, because we don't know if the screen resolution is the best. And then once it has opened the browser, it signs in as a normal user, so user and password, and then opens the app and starts testing. It means that you have to create a service account. You have to give access to the app to this service account. Otherwise, the service account will not be able to access to the app. And then you have to define some test cases for this robot for you to start testing. So as soon as the tests are going to be so quick. So what it takes longer is loading all the packages and so on. But what is going to happen is you will end up with a successful test cases task, and then you can use this successful to integrate on your release pipelines. So you can have a whole long list of tasks, export it, import it in test, run. So do exactly what I'm doing right now. If everything is successful, then let the users know that the acceptance tests are ready. Otherwise, roll back and inform the developers that something went wrong. So this is how it's working. Okay, now it's going so slow. Let me show you previous runs, and then I'm gonna be over for today. So the outcome of these runs, this is my test. I want to see all of them. So the outcome at the end isn't a screenshot, because you can see everything that happened on your app. And in my app, the robot just changed the name and came back to the main screen. So you will see the screen, the final screen of the success test. Just as yeah, nice to know. Okay, so I'm finishing. I'm conscious about time. So, what is coming next and how it's going to impact all of this? So, Microsoft has announced that we are going to have Canvas app source control. It means that we will be able to work with code in parallel, YAML code in parallel with Canvas app. It means that we will be able to do real code testing and code revision over the Canvas app. And I'm going to be able to compare line by line what it happened. It's kind of the same what you have seen, but instead of moving everything into repository, I will be able to do the source control and also to manage the code directly from Canvas app. So no need to go to the repository to see which lines have been changed. I'm really, really keen how this is gonna improve the way how we work in terms of coding, and I can guarantee that's a nice to have. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. I hope I enlightened you today with something new. I hope I added some value into the Power Platform developments. And if you are a DevOps administrator, I hope I show you how easy it is to manage those low code, pro code developments that we have together with Dynamics and Power Platform. I'm open to questions if there are any of them.
Amazing. Thanks much for this great session, Mar. I really enjoyed it. And all the things that you mentioned, and it's really important. So anyone in the session, including me, watching all the session from the beginning, I really enjoyed it, and this is really important. And I recommend watching it again if you're already in this session, and if you missed it, so it will be immediately available on YouTube after we end this streaming. So if there are any questions, so we have Mar here to answer your questions. We have live views also on LinkedIn. So if you put your question on LinkedIn, I'll try to highlight it on the screen for Mar.
Yeah, also so meanwhile, if somebody wants to ask something, I'm happy to answer. Just that you're aware, there are thousands of documentation about how to build up a pipeline with Power Platform, but you might get lost. So anytime, just come back to this video. Oh, what has Mark told me about coding, about branches, about pull requests? So I recommend you take a look, because from my experience, I spent thousands of hours watching at the Microsoft Learn, which is the best documentation for any kind of Azure DevOps developer. But sometimes a little bit of help is always welcome, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Very, very well said, Mark. So Microsoft Learn is the place. So if you want to learn. And by the way, do you have any recommendations, any links or resources that we can share together with the promotion of your session on our socials?
I mean, I can show you. I have lots of Microsoft Learn pages, so you can see. I use them a lot. So this is the Power Platform CLI. So not any specific one, being honest. I have some of them, not a preferred one. As I mentioned, every single topic or feature that you will be interested on, just Google it on the Power Platform Learn Center, and it's gonna be there. So there are no other. That's also one topic. There are no other documentations and such a source repositories where you can see, okay, this is how it works. I mean, our main knowledge base is the Learn. Then it's our job to kind of interpret it and understand it and try to use it. I mean, I think many of MVPs have tried to deploy or have tried to share this LAM CCD approach, but it's so complicated that I don't think that there is any other knowledge base better than the Microsoft Learn. For the test engine that I mentioned, this is a GitHub project. So same, just Google it or go into Bing search, test engine Microsoft. It's going to be a GitHub project, and take a look. So spend some time. I highly recommend it.
Amazing. So seems like we don't have any questions. That means the session very well delivered. So it's very clear for everyone then.
Perfect. If there is any question or you are watching this video after live, so when it's been posted into the YouTube channel, don't be afraid. Just reach me on social media, reach me using any of the channels and ask me any question.
Of course, I will try to mention your LinkedIn page if it's okay on the promotional page. So if anyone has any questions, so they can reach out.
Yep, happy to help.
Thank you so much, Mar, and I wish you a great evening. And thanks everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. So seeing you in the next sessions then.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.